Hey, what's up, everyone? So, back in the garage. Today's a good day because we finally got our paint. So, this is from Automotive Touch Up. If you haven't seen them, they actually mix up pretty damn good paint. So, you can get an OEM somewhat finish with their paint kits. So, they will sell you the whole deal. You can get, base coat, clear coat, especially if it's like a tri-coat color. This car, I only got some primer and 3 cans of base coat. I should only maybe like kill about 2 cans of base coat on the engine bay. But I wanted to have a little bit extra just in case if we wanted to touch up maybe some underbody stuff, give it a little touch up. That way we can sort of blend it in over time. It'll kind of blend itself in once it gets kind of a little bit more ragged from just driving, through puddles and stuff. Because this car will be street driven a lot. So it's probably going to see some rain. Going to see a lot of dirt, a lot of like pebbles on the road, all that stuff. So, stuff will wear in. A little bit of a test pass. And I don't know if the camera does it justice. But we can see that color really mimics the fender color a lot better. So we know this is more on the OEM color side. The engine bay looks super pinkish in camera. In person, it just looks more of a dark red. But it looks like that color will look a lot nicer with the fenders once this car gets repainted. This exact color, at least the engine bay will kind of like match it a little bit more. So first things first is we need to keep stripping more on this engine bay. So we got to get as much of this stuff out as we possibly can, or at least organized in a way where we're not going to be painting a bunch of wires. So I kind of always hate it when I see people with like painted engine bays and they have like overspray on a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to do my best to not be that guy and just remove a bunch of stuff. So the AC condenser is already going to get removed anyway, so I don't care if I get a little bit of overspray. But we're probably going to have to end up pulling the fenders and maybe the nose, actually 100% on the nose to be able to pull the fenders. So we're going to have to pull the front end off and maybe unbolt some stuff over there, take out some more wiring harness. I'm going to go ahead and get right on it. I don't really have a tripod or some kind of time lapse. My GoPro, I have no freaking clue where it's at. So I apologize. I would actually love to have this time lapse to kind of at least give you some kind of an idea of how much freaking work this is. But yeah, so I'll be right back once I actually, clean it up a little bit more. All right, a few sweaty hours later, I have the engine bay, pretty prepped up. So I did my best to kind of just like mask all this stuff. This stuff I'm going to take extra care of moving some wires around as I'm painting. I'm probably going to paint this in stages. So I'll probably do like more of the lower half first. Actually, first things first is really just do spot primes. There's a lot of bare areas I still got to kind of finish up sanding. So this stuff was like that just horrible area where all the battery acid, I think it's had a battery explode in the past. So I had to kind of smooth this stuff out. So still got to do a little bit more sanding there, a little bit more sanding down here just to get all that nasty rust off. Still got to do a little bit more cleaning down there. It's just really gross. This side though, this side is pretty much ready to start priming and painting. Yeah, they even got up in here, down here some more. Really, it's just trying to take care of all these hot spots. That way, it doesn't have any future issues. So, gonna go ahead, start priming, and give that some time to dry, smooth it out, and then hit it with some paint. All right, so apologize, I'm sweating over here. It's freaking 100 degrees in this garage right now, but. First coat of primer is done. I did lay it kind of heavy on some areas just to really fill in those really deep scratches and nicks. That whole situation over there is going to be very difficult to get around, to not get any kind of overspray on those that harness. It was just a little bit of a pain to really get it all unhooked and routed back into the car. So I'm just going to do it in stages. I'll paint the bottom half. I can move the harness down, paint the top half, let it dry, come back up, and just kind of blend it in. Again, this is probably not going to be the most show car engine bay, but it's going to be more presentable than what it was before. So that whole area came out nice and smooth. It's looking a lot better than it was before. So once it gets a coat of paint, it'll just, look that much better. Over here, we had a lot of deep scratches. So I really wanted to just fill them in with some primer That way I can come back, smooth them out. I may have gotten like a little run or two, so I kind of just went all over the place. There was just a lot of nicks everywhere, especially here. Just a bunch of nicks, you know, just all over the place. So just trying to do, you know, my best to really give this a presentable engine bay for what we got in store on the other side of this car. So cool. I'm gonna let this dry probably for the rest of the day, and then I'll come back to it tomorrow and give it a sanding and potentially some paint. All right, so it is the next day. I went ahead and just tossed a couple coats of red. So the paint I'm using is this automotive touch-up paint. So this is actually color-coded to code. So I think it came out pretty good. I still need a lot of touch-up, so I need to move all that stuff. So I try to avoid painting that area. So there's a lot of like unpainted areas. But so far on this side, for the first go around, I'm gonna let it fully cure 24 hours before I do another coat. That way, in case there's any splotchiness, any kind of wrinkles, I can sand those out because they'll be nice and dry. I did use a lot of kind of like these little rags and stuff to cover the cables because I didn't want any overspray, and just took my time. I would paint one side and then wait for it to cure a little bit, then paint somewhere else over here, then come back and paint underneath the cables. It was just a lot of back. I am pretty tired, mainly because it is super hot today. But I think for the first coat of paint, I think it came out killer. So it's already night and day difference. I could potentially even leave it how it is now, and you know, do some touch-up pinks later. So I think for now, 24 hours, come back tomorrow, do another coat. Cool. So after huffing a lot of paint fumes and doing my best to really not get any kind of crazy amounts of overspray, I may have gotten a little bit on the brake lines on this side. That was my fault. I forgot to kind of tape off a little section. But nothing a little bit of red Scotch-Brite pad won't fix. So the engine bay is looking 100 times better. So if you remember just the shot alone, that whole frame rail was just gross. So now is to really finally show what we're gonna be putting in this car. Cool. So I apologize for the mess, but here is what we're gonna be putting in the Cobra. So bam, this is a 363 Dart 4-bolt main short block with AFR heads. I think they're 205s, crazy cam, crazy intake, all the good stuff. It's port injection. It's not going to be carbureted. It's going to be port injection. Hence the aftermarket ECU. So here's the motor compared to the old one. This is a 302 base block. Yes, 302 base block. So if any of y'all want to know how to tell like Ford Windsor small blocks apart, a 351 block will have a gap here, so the cylinder head doesn't start till up here. 302s, water pump bolt straight to cylinder head. So this is 363 cubic inches. Crazy amounts of stroke and bore on this, which can only really be done with an aftermarket block. Stock block, you're kind of like playing with fire there. So gonna get this thing dressed up, get it ready to toss in the car. I did have to touch up a few spots, so I'm gonna give the engine bay 24 hours before I mess with it whatsoever. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead, get this thing going, bust out the T56 that's been chilling over there, start opening up a lot of these boxes and really start cleaning out this garage, because it is just a giant mess right now, and it's like making me lose my shit with my OCD. So slowly but surely, I am going to start clearing out this garage. Got to get rid of this thing and really clean up and organize before I can really start making a lot of headway on this motor. So I'm going to go ahead, build this torpedo, and get it set up to install in the car hopefully tomorrow. Okay, so we got the motor off its little stand and onto, I have it kind of like lightly resting on a few blocks of wood, and with, you know, a little bit of padding in there, that way it doesn't scratch up the oil pan. We protecting our investment by taping up the valve covers. So now that we got all that situated, we can start installing the flywheel. So this will be a manual car. And this is a flywheel from McLeod, and you might wonder what these are. So these are your external weights. So this is how, if this motor was stock, this is how you would balance said engine. But if we look at our engine build sheet, it says it's internally balanced. We do not need to install those. So this flywheel is perfectly balanced without the weights. But if it was a stock motor, we would first look up the year of the motor and all its details, and then we would figure out whether it's a 28 ounce or a 52, I believe, are the two weights. Let's see. So yeah, actually beautiful, right? So right there, it will tell you 50 or 28. So depending on what year range, what size motor, you know, all that good stuff, it'll literally tell you what weight to use. So in this motor, there will be no weights. All right. Well, I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. I needed to get some help, so I wasn't really recording because I don't know how they feel being on camera and stuff. So I went ahead and installed the flywheel and clutch. So always make sure you clean your flywheel, clean your clutch, and I also ended up swapping out the McLeod bushing that it comes with. So this is what you call your pilot bushing. So this goes on essentially on the back of the crank. The tip, just the tip of the transmission goes here, and essentially just keeps that shaft straight from doing anything wonky at high RPM, right? As you're applying all that load with the clutch, all that good stuff. So I like putting a bearing instead of a bushing just because it's, you know, for me, in my mind, I believe there's going to be less wear. So this is going to wear essentially oblong. Is like, in my mind, I believe this is going to kind of start wearing oblong, start causing vibration issues. So I'd rather go with a bearing that's essentially spinning with the transmission, and you got the rollers, and then you got the solid piece that's spinning with the engine. So you got, you know, two pieces and less, hopefully less friction than a bushing. But hey, what do I know? I don't know anything. I'm just an ET. But installed the transmission. That was a little bit of a pain to align, hence the help I needed. And then I stabbed the whole motor and transmission into the engine compartment all at once. So that's how it fits. So the small block looks actually really tiny in here. It's crazy that this is 363 cubic inches, and then you have like a coyote over there that'll just fill it from firewall, or from strut tower to strut tower, all the way to the firewall. But you know, it goes to show just how small these old blocks are. So there we go. I made sure to tape everything off. That way no tools, nothing kind of got in any holes, and try and do my best to protect those really nice valve covers. Even though I don't think we're going to run these, because this will be a coil on plug engine. So we do have to like drill and put on some brackets. But yeah, so the Moroso pan barely fits with the Maximum Motorsports K member. I think the transmission still needs to come up a little bit once I put the cross member in. This will have a Stifler's cross member for the T56, of course. You need that. And then we're running Energy poly motor mounts. I like the poly just because it, you know, versus solid, you get less NVH into the cab, making it a more smoother, enjoyable experience, while still getting somewhat of stiffness. So you get the, you know, best of both worlds. So you're gonna give some and take some here and there. I did accidentally put it just like a very tiny scratch, but you can't really see it on the firewall. But yeah, there you go. I think that's enough for me for today. Gonna call it a night. Tomorrow I'm gonna come in, unwrap everything, and start throwing headers, start throwing AC lines in, start throwing in wiring harnesses, all that stuff, and really start buttoning this thing up. So with that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day. I think this is plenty for one day. It's starting to get dark out, and it's already like 9 o'clock, or like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I have a giant mess I gotta clean up. I still gotta put the engine cradle on the old engine. That way it's a little bit more stable. I kind of just have it on the block of wood on the oil pan, which isn't the best. But I'll put the little cradle the new motor came in on the old motor, since it's the exact same block, bolt pattern wise. And I can properly store that off in a corner, and I can move it around and maybe put some casters on it, and that way when the owner comes and picks it up, or if someone wants to buy it, it is for sale. I think he wants like 2K for it. I think like $5,000 for like the whole drivetrain, all the way like PCM, everything off of this car, axle to essentially radiator or water pump all the way to axle, which I don't know if that's a deal or not, but you know, Cobra guys do Cobra guy things. So there you go. If you guys like it, let me know what you guys think of this build. Is this satire to put a 363 stroker motor instead of keeping the Cobra goodness, or should we have gone Coyote? I know Coyote is the hotness right now. I think it's a little, you know, it might be getting a little overdone. It might not be. I like the Coyote for daily stuff, but I really do miss having a stroker motor in my car. So, you know, I kind of wish I could have a second Fox body that has a stroker motor in it, and then have my Coyote swap that, you know, I can daily drive, you know, best of both worlds. So yeah, there you go. So I'll catch y'all later. I'm gonna go inside, drink lots of water because I am severely dehydrated right now, and carry on this project tomorrow. Deuces.